You're watching Forbes Titans. We're speaking to the former CEO of the JSE, Russell Loubser. You went in at an interesting time. In 1996, the JSE had just gone electronic.
That's right.
A far cry from that open cry trading of 100 years.
Yeah.
And you step in 1997. Must have been chaos.
Well, Friday, the 7th of June, 96, they closed the floor. And from Monday, the 10th of June, 96, the only way you could trade was with the new trading system, the old JET, which was already 13 years old at that stage. But that's, I guess, all the JSE could afford, then. So when I joined in 97, 1st of January 97, the system had been running for 6 months, and the big thing was just keeping this thing up because it was crashing. At one stage, there was no trade for 5 days.
So I'm not being alarmist when I say it was chaotic, a chaotic time.
Yeah, my colleagues were so wrapped up because it was this completely new technology, and every time the system went down, it was a question of, I told you so, why did you guys change, how could you even thought of it? So they were taking a lot of flack, and it was impossible for them to sit back and think differently or to start thinking strategically. It was micromanagement all the time.
Besides that, Russell, though, you were taking a lot of flack from the press, from the business community, and at some point that must have been debilitating.
It's hugely debilitating but there's a lesson to be learned there, Bronwyn. The JSE had a bad reputation at that stage, and it deserved a bad reputation. For many reasons. Just about everything that should not happen on an exchange happened. Insider trading, front running, all the things which you just cannot afford. And then new system goes down. So we were criticized all the time. And when you give a dog a bad name, very difficult to get rid of that bad name. And South Africa must remember this. And companies must remember this, and governments must remember this, and everybody must remember this, because it's you can work a lifetime building a reputation, you can destroy it in 5 minutes. You develop a reputation as a cowboy exchange, which we were, very difficult to change.
But you must have believed that you could change that perception,
Sure.
Otherwise you would never have taken the job.
There's no question about that. And obviously I had no intention of just maintaining the status quo. And for that matter, the JSE, the people who appointed me, they also realized that they needed somebody to do what had not been done.
Let's fast track.
Yeah,
you achieved stability.
Yeah,
2001, you decided to go over after the futures exchange. You also wanted to go after the bond exchange at that time.
Go after sounds very predatory.
Are you not predatory?
No.
You gently decided to make a soft overture towards the futures exchange.
There's Nikki sitting. Nikki has been.
Nikki was the predator.
No. She's as tough as nails, but she wasn't a predator either. I joined in 97, and I immediately started talking to both the futures exchange and the bond exchange. Remember, I started as a bond trader. For many, many years, I was a bond trader. And then I was part of the team that started the futures exchange. So I knew those two games, and I started talking to the CEOs of those two exchanges. Immediately, I got to the exchange. So, guys, we must get together. Can't you see that the only way collectively we can deliver a better service to South Africa's financial markets is by getting together? They weren't interested.
But the futures exchange did acquiesce.
Well,
I'm putting
definitely not in the
Obviously,
beginning.
it was a lot tougher than initially documented.
Yeah, they also told us to get knotted in the beginning. And then we said, right, fine, we've tried. And then eventually they came back to us. And that was a guy called Ray Cadies, who was the chairman of SAFEX at that stage. And he had the sense to see that we weren't trying to just acquire them, and he could see, and he was a big driving factor in the two exchanges getting together. Right, so we put the JSE and SAFEX together, which makes absolute sense. You don't get traders in a dealing room anymore just thinking in terms of the cash market or just the derivatives market. The one can replicate the other. You must put the two together. What's happening all over the world at the moment, cash markets are either creating their own derivatives markets or acquiring them.
So all the time now, the liquidity and the transparency of the exchange is advancing.
It's getting better, yeah.
2003, you decide to formulate the alternative exchange.
Yes, because every single country in the world has got this issue. No company is born big. Every company starts small. And we are extremely proud of our big companies, but they were all small at some stage. So to just concentrate on your big companies is a big mistake. Every country has to nurture, encourage, boost the small companies, because that's the way you achieve success at the end of the day, when small companies become medium-sized companies, become big companies, and then they list. That's the way life works.
There has
Just
been
like
criticism
people.
leveled at Altex, the alternative
Yeah,
exchange,
of course.
that it doesn't have the credibility.
Well, none of those people have got a better idea of how to do things. Everybody criticizes. That's fine. We know we've got to take that. But ask those same people, what is your plan? I can also criticize lots of things, but I don't have answers to some of them.
Just as you are achieving traction with Altex,
Yeah.
the news that Noah Greenhill
Yes.
has left to Sasfin.
Well,
That's a bit of a blow.
It's a blow, but it's also it's a good thing for the JSE if we can grow people, and we grew Noah, and Noah grew the JSE, he grew Altex. If we can grow people to achieve that type of status and position, because Noah's got a serious job now. So I think that's a feather in the cap of Noah and the feather in the cap of the JSE, that we can grow people from very junior positions, really, to now achieve that thing. And now Nikki must go get somebody to take this thing forward.
Well, let's go back to our
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah.
2005,
Right.
big event,
2000
demutualization.
Yeah. And up until then, we were still a mutual club, like a sports club, like we'd been since 1887. Fortunately, up until then, tax exempt. That was very important for us because it allowed us to build our reserves quicker. You know, if you go and look at the financials of 31st of December 1996, the exchange had no money, had nothing. Didn't have buildings, didn't have assets, they had no money. Okay, so we had to, and we were guaranteeing every single trade that went through the central order book. I don't know what we were guaranteeing it with, but that was the fact of the matter.
We don't need that much detail
Yeah, okay.
at this point.
Right.
We'll take that offline,
Okay,
not on national television.
We had to build reserves, and it helps if you're not taxed while you're building reserves. But then eventually, unfortunately, Province saw through this, and he said, no, we're going to start taxing you. So we said, okay, seeing we've been conducting ourselves like a listed company now for the last 4 or 5 years, and seeing you're now going to tax us like a company, we're going to become a company. In other words, demutualize. That happened 1st of July 2005. And then the next logical step, we subjected ourselves to every single listings requirement since about 2000. And that happened one day. My colleagues and I were sitting around a table, and we said, guys, if all the listed companies that we force to comply with all the listings requirements are doing it, why aren't we? From the next day, we started complying. So when 2006 came around, the switch from being a club to a company to a listed company was actually quite easy, because we'd been subjecting ourselves to every single listings requirement for 5 years already.
We saw Humphrey Borken in the introductory video saying this is your legacy, the listing of the JSE in 2006. Are you satisfied with that legacy?
You know, legacy is a Lani word. I regard, if I've achieved success, I describe it as working with a great bunch of people, and I had a great bunch of people at the JSE, where we had one objective is transform this place, make it better, for the benefit of everybody. And there's no harm at the same time in making a profit. Profits are not evil for those socialists out there. Profits are absolutely essential in order to do the socialist things that you want to do later. Otherwise, I don't know how you do socialist things. Well, I do know you can't unless you make profits. So, legacy success is No genius involved. It's just surrounding yourself with great people like Nicky Newton-King and all my other colleagues, doing the research and doing good research, making the decision, and then very importantly, because in South Africa we think that if we talk and research, and then things are fine. You've got to then implement. And you will make mistakes, but the last thing you can do is regard yourself as a university where you just do research and just talk. You have to implement.
Now, you've said in 2001, when you made that gentle overture to the bond exchange of South Africa, they turned you down.
Yeah, flat.
You left it till 2009 to go back in. Were you predatory this time round?
Maybe a little bit more predatory, yes, because money does focus the mind. And we know it's the right thing to do. And Frank, South Africa's got a lot of things still to do. And I know my colleagues don't pat themselves on the back and think, geez, we've done such a great job. We have done a great job, but we've got a lot of things still to do. Even the derivatives market is not perfect yet. A lot of work. The bond market, South Africa deserves a much better interest rate market than what we've got.
I'm going to borrow from Andrew Cantor, Director of Future Growth Asset Management here, who says that the South African bond market is constipated. Your reaction to that?
Well, he's right in certain respects. And if you talk to some of the old bond traders, they'll say, well, the bond market works. And they're right. I'm afraid that's not good enough. That's like saying Bafana works. Yeah. It's not good enough. We need a world-class soccer team, we need a world-class rugby team, and we need world-class financial markets.
How are you going to achieve that, the transparency and the liquidity ultimately in the bond environment that you're after?
Well, they're going to achieve it now.
Absolutely.
Guys like
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Nicky Newton-King, it falls squarely in her ambit now.
Graham Smale and Nicky Newton-King have got to achieve that now. The JSE deserves it, South Africa deserves it, all the players.
Is it possible? Perhaps we can ask you that.
Absolutely, it's possible. Absolutely. The nonsense that people come up with that bonds are different to equities. Well, geez, that's a bright statement to make. Of course they're different, but that doesn't mean to say they can't be traded in exactly the same way.
We're almost finished with our timeline, 2009 Africa board, and again, that has received much criticism in that we're not yet ready for an Africa board. Do you agree?
We're absolutely ready for an Africa board.
Why isn't it working?
It will work, and like Bafana works. The Africa board works, but it's working slowly, like Bafana at the moment. It will work better over time because it's a completely logical thing. What is the logical thing? Every single big African company, wherever that African company is, deserves, and its investors deserve a good platform on which to trade and to list and to raise money and all those good things that create wealth, that uplift the population. If they're not getting that service from their local exchange because it's too small, and look, we are big in African terms, but we are small in world terms, then if they're not getting that service that they deserve from their local exchange, we can help them do it without damaging the local exchange.
Russell, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. You've been watching Forbes Titans here on CNBC Africa. We've been speaking to the former CEO of the JSE, Russell Loubser.